I knew Basagita long before I understood the meaning of loss. Even before I realized that life often does not measure victory in a fair way. My name is Wijaya. Since childhood, my life has been filled by only one person, my mother. My father left long ago, leaving us with a silence that I quickly learned to accept as a companion. Since then, I grew up with one simple belief: so long as my mother was still there, I had to keep standing. My mother often said that my name meant great and superior victory. And indeed, in many ways, life granted me victories. A business built from nothing, a name that slowly became known, and the ability to stand upright before the world. But there was one thing I could never conquer: the gentlest and the cruelest language at once, the language of love. I knew Basagita since childhood because my mother worked at her family's house. My mother was a housemaid there. Every morning she arrived early, sweeping the white yard filled with flowers and preparing everything the family needed. I often came along, sitting quietly in a corner of that large house, bringing a book or simply observing a world that felt far removed from my own life. Basagita lived in that house. She was the only daughter. Her face was unremarkable, not beautiful by the world's standards. Many people glanced at her once and then forgot. But from the first moment she spoke to me, I knew there was something about her that could not be ignored. Basagita, her way of speaking and her voice were beautiful. And there was one other trait that always clung to her: the scent of cinnamon. Not from perfume, not from the kitchen, but a subtle fragrance that always came with her presence. Warm, comforting, like home. We grew up together in the same neighborhood. Me, the child of a housemaid, and Basagita, the child of a wealthy family, played without distance. She never addressed me differently, never treated my mother with a condescending tone. In her small world, everyone deserved respect. When we entered our teenage years, I began to understand the world differently. I started to realize that there were boundaries unwritten, yet always felt that life was not only about feelings but also about position. Basagita was still not chosen by appearance, but her words grew even more beautiful, and I fell deeper, quietly, without ever truly hoping. As we entered our 20s, the city where we live began to lose its calm. That year arrived carrying unrest. Student demonstrations filled the streets, prices soared, people spoke of an economic crisis, of fragile power, of an uncertain future. I didn't fully understand politics. All I knew was the fear that crept everywhere. One afternoon on the terrace of Basagita's house, we sat together. The wind carried the familiar scent of cinnamon. When all this chaos is over, Basagita said in her steady voice, "We should meet again." It was not an excessive promise. There was no words forever, just a simple sentence spoken in the same beautiful manner. The riots truly broke out not longer after that. The city turned into something we no longer recognized. Shops closed, streets filled with shouting, many families chose to leave, and Basagita's parents took their family to another island one. I didn't even know. My mother lost her job, and without having the change to say anything more, we were separated. I waited. I didn't wait in silence. I worked. I fell and rose again. I learned to live from the bottom. I wanted one day to stand without having to bow too low before anyone. If I couldn't win by origin, I want to win through effort. Several years later, news about Basagita reached me. She had been in an accident. Her face was badly damaged. Her family took her abroad for reconstructive surgery. I knew, and I continued to wait. I built my business with one foolish belief: one day she would return, and I had to be worthy. Years passed. My name began to be known. Wijaya was spoken of as a symbol of success. My business grew from the simplest thing. I started with trading basic necessities: rice, sugar, cooking oil, delivering them myself from the market to small shops. From there, I learned to read people's needs. I entered distribution, opened warehouses, built networks. Slowly, my business grew into a logistics and distribution company, supporting many small shops and factories. I didn't become wealthy overnight. I became wealthy by enduring, yet not a single one of those victories ever felt complete. We met again in the Langham Hotel, Jakarta, many years after all the separations. I didn't recognize her face. She was too beautiful now. Her face was refined. The world would surely find it easy to love her. But before my eyes were convinced, my sense of smell recognized the scent of cinnamon. And when she spoke, God, her voice was still the same. I heard her say her name at the hotel reception desk, Basagita. She looked at me politely. There was no recognition in her eyes. I'm sorry, she said gently. Have we met before? My dress collapsed. A few days later, I met her father. He explained everything without excessive emotion. That Basagita had lost her memory because of the accident, that her life had begun anew, that she was married and had a child. That night, for the first time, all victories felt empty. I sat alone, letting titles, names, and great business lose all meaning. Then my mother came and sat beside me. Her hand grasped mine just like when I was little, when the world felt too large to understand. You still belong to yourself and to me, your mother, she said simply. The sentence was not beautiful, not poetic, yet it was precisely true that I broke. I realized something I learned too late, that life doesn't always demand us to win. And love doesn't always ask to be possessed. I love Basagita, and that feeling never fell, never truly left. But I also love my mother, the only reason I learned to endure since childhood. And from there, I choose to keep moving forward. I don't know whether I should open space in my heart again. Perhaps because I waited too long, perhaps because I have come to terms with the fact that not every story needs to end in possession. Now I wake every morning not to chase what was lost, but to take care of what still remains. And every time the wind carries the scent of cinnamon back into my memory, I no longer welcome it with pain. It comes as a memory of someone I once loved completely, and of myself who finally learned not to blame time. I don't know how this story will end, but at least now I allow myself to keep walking, without haste, without needing to forget.